Okay, welcome everybody. I'm Ricky Quintana with HoonArts here in Albuquerque, and this is our first ever live chat with the artist. And Munira Akilova from Tajikistan is our guest speaker today. But
Assalamu alaikum.
we called it a live chat because it is just a chat. It's not a formal talk. I came up with 4 general topics just to sort of guide the discussion. But I'd like to introduce officially Munira.
Hi, Munira.
Hi.
Hello.
Assalamu alaikum.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello. Good, yes, morning here. And night for you, almost.
Night for us, yes. It's bedtime.
Yeah. Almost bedtime. Yeah.
And sitting next to Munira was Jamshed.
Yes, he left us and he wished us good luck for our, let's say, chat or conference, but whatever we name it.
Jamshed is the executive director of a nonprofit in Tajikistan called the Zarafshan Tourism Development Association. And Munira is the handicraft manager for the handicraft arm of ZTDA. She also has her own personal business called Artisan Crafts. Munira and I first met in early 2015 when I first started shopping for HoonArts. I had no clue what I was doing, but Bakruddin, who is the young man who visited New Mexico in the fall of 2014, he sent me pictures on Facebook, and he went to the biggest craft fair that they have in Tajikistan in Dushanbe. They have it every December.
I do remember that day.
And he went around taking pictures of everything at the craft fair and sending them to me. And I would look at them. Oh, here's my husband, Jim.
Hi, Jim. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
It's good to see you, Munira.
Yes, same here. Smiley and healthy.
Yes. So Bakruddin just sent me these pictures, and I would see them and say, oh, that's pretty. What is that? Oh, I like that. How much does that cost? So some of the first things that I picked out were things from Armagon Handicrafts. And
we were lucky.
When I wanted to continue working with the artisans, Bakruddin promptly put me in direct contact with Munira since she speaks English.
Yes, by that I would interrupt you here because I also insist to put in direct contact because he was asking you, sending me, and as I'm speaking English, it was easier. And he also doesn't know what exactly do you want. And same for us, was a lot of questions, and I asked him to put in direct contact to know what exactly do you want and what exactly do you need. That was easiest for me.
So that's how Munira and I first connected. And then when Jim and I went to Tajikistan in October 2015, Bakruddin and Munira put together our itinerary. Bakruddin handled the section in Dushanbe, the capital city, and he worked with people to get us to the Garm region. I'm going to share a map here. Let me share a screen. Let's see, share screen. Now I want to do this one. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah,
I can.
Okay.
Yes.
Here's Dushanbe. This is the capital city of Tajikistan. This is where the main international airport is. And Munira lives up here in Khujan, which is the major city in the north. And there's quite a rivalry between Khujan and Dushanbe.
300 kilometers.
Okay.
As I learned,
and through 2 tunnels. One tunnel, the furnace, they're calling the tunnel of death.
Ah!
yes, it's kind of a scary tunnel. When we went, they had done some major repair work, so it wasn't quite so scary. But another person from Albuquerque who went to Tajikistan just a few months before we went, came home with these horrible stories about wondering if he was going to get out alive because there was no lighting. And
because no lighting is too dark. Yes, you never know when it will finish, but it's just 5 kilometers.
The taxi driver called it the tunnel of death.
Yes, I told Jim.
Yes. And you can see from this map that Tajikistan is very mountainous.
Mm-hmm.
It's 93% mountainous, only 7% arable land.
Oh my gosh.
Most of the population, about 75% of the population, lives in small villages in rural areas.
Yeah.
This area over here is called the Pamir Mountains.
Oh yeah, I've heard of them.
Let me see if I can switch screens and show you a different map here. I had them all, I opened them all. You can see this. This is the province of that includes the Pamir region. And you may have heard about the Pamir Highway, which is a famous route through Central Asia, and it's oops, no, I don't want a new Viber. Sorry.
It's the Pamir Highway, and Pamir itself now it's included in top 10 beautiful mountain destinations in the world.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
If you follow, see the cursor, it goes over here and it goes over here. People drive it, people bike it, and then it goes up here. It's a very beautiful area. Jim and I didn't get to visit the Pamirs because it would have taken us another day to get there.
Yep.
And then another day to get back. The main city of the Pamirs is Horog, which is right down here. They have an airport, but the airplanes only fly in and out if the weather conditions permit. And that is determined on an hourly basis.
Went to those lakes.
Yeah, no, those are not those lakes. I'll show you where the lakes are.
Oh, okay.
So most people drive, and I haven't traveled the road, but I know it closes in the winter. And there's always a problem with avalanches and that sort of thing. One day I will get to the Pamir region. So when we visited, Jim and I, we stayed in this area around Dushanbe, and then we went up this highway here through Aini. And
I would say the road to Harok, it's almost the same road like you are going to Nothing, to Seven Lakes.
Oh,
I was there last year, so I will. Yes, if you will listen to the people, they are saying that the roads are ugly. It's impossible to get in one day. It's so hard. But when I was there, I found it like this, almost the same lifestyle like in Seven Lakes.
Mm-hmm. Which the roads are narrow, but they're graded. They go uphill a lot. Definitely uphill a lot.
Yes.
1 car wide usually. So when you meet a car running the other direction, it's quite interesting. Somebody usually has to back up and find a place to pull off.
Yeah.
But so when we were there, we spent several days here in Dushanbe with Bakruddin and met artisans here, and then we took a taxi, but Tajik taxis are like American Ubers, only not as formalized. The city, there are several different taxi stations for different cities. So you go to the taxi station where the drivers that are driving to a different city, like if you wanted to go to Hujand, you'd go to the taxi station for Hujand, and there are just private cars waiting there, and you talk to the drivers and you kick the tires on their taxis and negotiate a price. And thank goodness we had local people doing it for us, because we would have been lost without it. So Bakruddin put us in a taxi in Dushanbe and sent us up here through the tunnel and through Aini. This highway right here is actually a new highway. It had just opened when we went, just like a month before we got there. It's a nice new highway.
You were lucky, I would say, by that time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we could spend 8 hours for 300 kilometers away.
Wow.
Because the roads were closed for the reconstruction.
Yeah, and I think the president had just traveled through there, so there were all kinds of signs welcoming the president.
Yes, exactly. There was the same days. Part of the roads were closed because he was traveling and opening the highway.
The taxi drivers did not know English. We had to speak to them in either Russian or German.
And they're
Was he speaking German, Jim?
I think that taxi driver did understand a little German.
He understood more Russian than German.
And Jim,
sure.
We had a little bit of both. That taxi driver was a little scary. A little scary.
And he's saying is scary, just very in an easy way.
It's a windy mountain road without lots of guardrails, and they drive pretty quickly. And we actually had to stop once because one of the other passengers, they're joint, until when they fill the taxi, that's when they go. And there was another family traveling.
Lady got sick.
And one of the ladies got sick, and we had to stop so she could get out and get sick. And she was also bringing her bird with her.
The birds were going crazy.
And there were birds in the back.
Birds?
Birds in cages, chittering and tweeting in the back. And then, so we went over here to Panjakent. And that's where we got delivered to Munira.
Ah.
And I was so incredibly grateful when Munira arrived. It's like, oh, thank goodness somebody's catching us at the other end.
There was something
no taxis anymore.
So the reason we were going to Panjakent is because that's where many of this region here, Panjakent, is where many of the embroidery ladies live. But most of them actually live in these mountains, in these little mountain villages up in here. Let me show you. Flip to the other mountain. Flip to the mountain view. Let's see. Did I lose it? I lost it.
Your map? Yeah.
I lost my map. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Let me open.
Ricky, we're still seeing the first map, or at least I am. I'm
Okay.
just double checking.
Okay.
The same here. I haven't seen any of these. Yeah, your cursor now. I'm seeing a little bit of the cursor.
Oh, there it goes.
I'm only seeing the first map.
Oh, well, that's my problem, obviously.
But at least I see your cursor now.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well,
too.
I'll repeat our trip
I've
really
got the
quickly.
cursor.
Here's Dushanbe, the capital city. We went up this highway, turned left, turned west, over to Panjikent. And remember I said Jamshed is the executive director of the Zarafshan Tourism Development Association. This river and this valley is the region known as Zarafshan, which is a particular very ancient region of Central Asia. And here you can see over here Samarkand. You've probably heard of Samarkand. That's actually in Uzbekistan. Just what is it, about an hour from Panjikent, Munira?
45 minutes, it's 60 kilometers distance between.
When we went, the border was
It
closed.
was closed, yes.
And we couldn't visit Samarkand. Samarkand, incidentally, is Tajik ethnically. All the beautiful buildings, all the wonderful handicrafts, it's all Tajik, not Uzbek. Even though it's located inside Uzbekistan. And that's one of the little twists and turns in Central Asia. Most of this region was administered for hundreds and hundreds of years as a unit, not as separate countries. Then during the Soviet period, they got divided up and the boundaries got drawn, but it's a very ethnically diverse area. So you'll have Tajiks in Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan, you'll have Kyrgyz ethnic people in Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, and there are a lot of other smaller ethnic communities. It's a very rich, multicultural area, but the boundaries were, as always seems to be the case, drawn by governments and people in power, not really in relation to the wishes of the people they're dividing. So I will let you take over, Munira, now and talk a little bit about how you got involved. Remember, Munira lives up here in Hujand. Her embroidery ladies are down here, and there's some little lakes called the 7 Lakes, beautiful little mountain, long, thin mountain lakes with little villages. And it's 7 in a row up the mountainside. And many of the embroidery ladies are in the 7 Lakes region. How is it that you, Munira, ended up running a handicraft artisan group from Hujand, working with artists down in this region?
I think it was a fortune. Because before coming to the handicraft as a sector, I used to teach at university economics. My first degree is management, and I used to teach at university economic disciplines. In 2013, I had some health problem, and I decided to stop teaching at university. And as I used to do embroidery from childhood, I allowed to draw. So I decided, why not to, for the rest of the life, do what you love to do. So yeah, I think actually yesterday I was talking to one of my friends late in the night and she was telling about that she is stressed now because the situation the worldwide, and she's getting nervous. I remind her, and she is working for the government, local government, and I said, why not to change something in your life? Maybe do social entrepreneurship, stuff like that, because she has the potential. And I told my short story about myself, how the change was done. And when I decided, I stopped teaching at university, and I decided, okay, if I will work on handicraft and do what I love to do, then I need to have the degree. I applied for graphic and design bachelor at university and started again studying. By that time, I was actually, this is the power of Facebook. When I started posting, yes, when I started posting my pictures of what I'm doing, people saw it, and that was an opportunity maybe, or a fortune that Zerfshan Tourism Development Association, by that time they had a project on handicraft in Zerfshan Valley. So they were looking for the consultants to do the исследование се го трусиш английски бе. Да. So they had a project on handicraft, and they need for consultant to overview the region, to find out, to make the creative concept for the products, to develop new products, to study the area. Yes, and they were looking for the researcher who would do this work. So by that time, I joined the team. So now it's 7 years that I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very cool. So is the university in the capital?
No, Khujand is the second biggest city in Tajikistan, and it's about 2 million in our region, in South Oblast. So we have more than 5 universities here in our town. Mm-hmm. Yes, and actually from the history, if we will look back, it's a more education and cultural place in Tajikistan. Mm-hmm. Because it's older than the capital.
Yes, I mentioned earlier that there's rivalry between the north and the south. Mm-hmm. Dushanbe is considered an upstart new city because it's only 75 years old, something like that.
More than 80.
More than 80. And
yes,
how old is Khujand?
Is about 3,000.
3,000.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
It's one of the Asian cities on the Silk Road.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Panjakent was the next stop after Samarkand on one of the Silk Road routes.
And there is Istarafshan, a small city, small town in between Panjakent and Khujand, which was also on the Silk Road.
So tell them the story about how you created the catalog of Zerafshan ornaments.
Yes, the catalog of Zerafshan ornaments was a result of that research which we have done during 2 or 3 years while going back and forth, giving trainings within that project in 2014-15. And the main aim of doing the catalog of the ornaments, the patterns, was to revive, preserve the patterns. Oh, Lynn, how are you?
Hey,
Hi, how are you?
Good, good.
Glad to see you. Actually, Lynn, very glad to see you. Lynn was in our office and she have seen this all leave.
Oh,
Yes,
Yeah.
fantastic. I love Hujan. Ready to go back.
We're welcome to see you here back again.
Thank you.
What's the catalog consist of? It's a pattern. Within our research, we found that the main crafts there in Zarafshan Valley, it's embroidery. For example, I'm calling Zarafshan Panjikent itself like motherland of Suzali embroidery. Beside that, they used to do patchwork and the carpet weaving. So the catalog consists of the patterns from the Suzani embroidery or embroidery itself, and then carpet weaving and patchwork. And there we try to not just collecting the patterns, but mostly we're emphasizing on the philosophy or semantic, the meaning of the patterns, because nowadays our main aim is not to just teach the skills, how the technique of embroidery or weaving or patchwork, but we want to mostly emphasize the meaning or the message the artisan passed to through his creations, so through the craft. So this was the main idea to work on the catalog, and it was we were lucky. The content, the donors were like the content, and they did more investment and published the catalog in much better quality.
And I have a copy in my filing cabinet that I pull out and look at periodically. And how many different villages and how many different grandmas did you visit during that research period?
Actually, that project was covering 4 clusters. It means 4 different regions. We were covering Panjikent city and 7 lakes area. There are different Mohion region up to Farop, which is in the western part of Tajikistan, and also part of Aini region, Veshap, which is also well known like a sanctuary village. We have met a lot of grandmas, because the younger generation, if you will ask them what does this pattern means, they are saying it's just a flower or it's just a petal, nothing more. So but when you would go to the grandmas and staying with them, taking a cup of tea, and they are opening their wedding chest and taking all old stuff and showing you, telling this long stories behind. That was the interesting part. But unfortunately, there are every day less and less of them who would carry that knowledge. And where one of our mission of our team is to preserve it, to revive these histories, and not building the stories like a new story, but taking the real stories behind.
Mm-hmm. Really nice, yeah.
So how many ladies do you work with, and how many different villages are involved in the work of Armagon Handicrafts?
For now, we are working with more than 30 ladies over, I would say, over north of Tajikistan in Suk, because we are not covering only Zarafshan Valley, Panjikent and Aini, but also we're working with ladies in Khujand and suburbs of Khujand. And for now, yesterday I talked with the ladies within our last project with UNDP. We have opened a new workshop for the ladies in Aini region, in Madam. It is a very tiny village, tiny, but I would say a very nice village in Ormitan Jammuat. It's on the way from Hujan to Panjikent. We have opened the workshop of carpet weaving, ladies, and we bought some merino sheeps, and to produce. Yes, we did that to make them more independent, and they are raising. Now their sheeps have 2 babies.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. Now they send them all to the mountains for feeding. They will live with the shepherds until autumn, and then they will get back home. So it's the way now they can take the wool themselves to develop it. We have done the classes of the natural dyeing with them, so they can dye to make the wool, to make the yarn, and afterwards they will do the rest of their work. This idea came up in order because it's a unique village where they do totally different type of the carpet weaving. It's like the Peruvian, Ricky. It's not knotting technique, but it's flat. It's like a kilim. It's like a kilim technique. Yes, it's
weaving instead of knotted carpet.
Yes, it's not carpet weaving. Not like with knots, but the flat one.
Is it more like the Navajo?
Yes, Navajo. More like that. Yes, more geometrical patterns. Like that, yeah. So remember, Ricky, there is a river, Zarafshan River, separating like from the villages from right side and the left side. They're in the left side of the river, and even if they're in one Jammuat is like a micro region, let's say, and even in the right side of the village, people are not using their carpets, because they think it's too old style, it's expensive. They will rather buy Turkish or Iranian carpets. So this is one of the dyeing, it was one of the dyeing crafts in the region, yes. Only this small village, about 200 or less than 100 households using that craft. So this is what our last project, what we have done with them. So for now, more than 30 ladies.
Munira, are you finding that the young people are receptive to learning the old traditional patterns and crafts?
The young, for example, they are not, I would say generally, they are not so interested in, but because of the government attention, in 2018 and there was dedicated as a year of tourism and handicraft development. A lot of the programs were built on that base, and these years were now prolonged for 2019 until 2021. And because in order to decrease the ratio of unemployment, there are a lot of the programs, governmental and not governmental programs and projects who are involving the young generation too.
So well.
Yeah, the percentage is not high because as whole all over the world they prefer to do something easier and which will bring more money, taking less time. But those who are in the villages and those who are not going to the schools, like universities or colleges, they can stay with their families and at least do that craft.
So, Munira, when you and I chatted yesterday, you didn't really have an update on how the pandemic is impacting the families in the villages. Now, having talked to them, can you give us sort of an overview of what it's like in Tajikistan right now?
Based on official comments or official news, there is no any case of the COVID-19 for now. But situation is uncertain. There are some sick people, but they're saying it's different type of the cough or something like that. They have pneumonia, but they are not official cases yet. I have checked with the ladies in the mountains. They are saying they're all fine. They're too far. Yes, they're just watching on the news. No one is sick, so they're fine. When I ask them, are you using like masks or stuff like this? They're saying no, nothing is here. We are fine. It's time for farming for them. They are now starting putting the potatoes. It's just starting blooming. Trees are there because the spring comes a bit later there. So they are busy with their farming.
So I've seen a lot on Facebook that prices are going up a lot in the cities.
Yes. Yeah, mostly people are angry about the prices for the potato.
Yes, I saw Bakruddin's post.
Yes. Generally, yes, there is some panic, and also President within his speeches for the Ramadan. Today is the first day for Ramadan.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yes, we have started fasting today. It's very hard. It's very hard to waking up at 3 in the night. And now we have the crazy regime. So yes, the prices are increasing. The same like for the hygiene stuff as well. People starting sewing masks themselves. Most of the textile companies which are located in Hujand, now they are mostly doing sewing the masks, and some of them are exporting to different countries. So because there is no business, for example, we are doing tourism and handicraft, no job.
Could sew masks.
Yes, I would. I already have done for my family, and I have an idea to do some charity actually. And I'm waiting for quarantine actually. if there will be real need, then I will do. And every tailor has her leftovers. They are waiting their time. So I think I'm waiting for quarantine to use my leftovers and do sew masks and do charity. So this is an idea.
So right now, nobody except travelers are in quarantine, and people are still moving around the cities. And
yes,
are still open.
Schools are open, kindergartens are open. Just the mosques are closed. Mosques are closed, but everything the rest is the same. People are going to work. It's a bit slow. There are less people in the streets. People are doing self-isolation. So these are also the ways how we're keeping for now.
Are the airports still closed?
Yes, airports are all closed. The transfers between the cities are open. You can travel in country, but not out.
So the border.
The border is open only for transportation. Yes.
For cargo.
Yes.
Only for products, not people.
Only not people, but products. Yes.
Which means Munira's working on an order for us right now, but there's no way to get it here because everything comes by air freight. So there are the airports are closed.
Yes.
And we also have this additional complication that just developed starting in December with the government closing most of the money transfer apps that people were used to using. And the last few payments I've sent to artisans in Tajikistan, I used MoneyGram for 4.5 years, almost 5 years. And then starting in December and January, that I couldn't use MoneyGram anymore because the government shut it down, and money transfers have been different. I'm not sure if anything is really functional again. And what I did, what we worked out for the orders that I had placed after this, our shipper from Tajikistan, who's actually a Tajik immigrant who won the green card lottery and moved to Brooklyn and started his own shipping business.
Yeah.
He runs a courier service normally 1 to 3 times a month. And most of his shipping is products from the US to Tajikistan, but I'm one of the customers bringing stuff the other direction. But he had relationships. I don't actually know if he has a personal bank account in Tajikistan or he simply has relationships with local people in Tajikistan, but I could pay him and he could make the money available in Tajikistan. Which is an
this is at least something.
A lot of trust.
But that's one of the wonderful things for me about running HoonArts is everything I do is based on relationships and trust.
Yeah.
I spent 30 plus years writing contracts. I don't have a single contract with anybody. I usually try to do official purchase orders just so we could keep track of what I want. I still owe Munira a purchase order for the order she's already working on. I text her and say, oh, well, let's do one of these and let's do it with red and let's do 2 of these and do it with blue. And so the COVID-19 has put a real, basically COVID-19 has shut down, I'd say, for most fair trade businesses that work with artisans in the developing world, has probably shut down anywhere from 80 to 95 or up to 100% of the commerce, because people are sitting at home. The market in the US, everybody's sitting at home and wearing pajamas to their Zoom meetings.
Ricky, I would tell that the positive side of COVID as well. Now we are chatting, otherwise we wouldn't come.
That's true.
Maybe several months after, or maybe there wouldn't be any idea to doing this Zoom chat.
So that's right. That's right.
Yes. I've never done a Zoom chat before, but before this happens. I've done several.
This is so much more fun than with the family.
Thank you for your time.
Off of the camera, please.
Well, we will resume production, and we will keep bringing products from Munira, but I find it fascinating, the whole process of how you do a product and where it starts, what you do in Hujand, and how the whole process works. So why don't you describe, like here, I will show you, this is one of the pillowcases.
Mhm.
Yes, very old one.
It's an old one, yes.
Yeah.
But just, I have a few things here. There's that one, and then this was one that Munira designed especially for HoonArts.
Yes. Yeah.
So just describe the process of how it goes from your head to a finished process.
Oh, from my head. Yes.
From your heart.
Yes, it's all combined, head and heart and knowledge. So first, what we are doing, it's for sure you are researching and you are analyzing the markets. Whom are you going to sell your product? So this is the standard, the way how you are building the design. So once the design already have chosen and finished as a design. For example, how we're working with Ricky, I would say a great thanks to Ricky. She's our ambassador of artisans in the US. Yes, there is no need to go to US market for ourselves. It's too expensive. But we have her who is doing almost everything in marketing, everything for us, not only for Armahon, but other Tajik and Central Asian artisans as well. So, how we're working with Ricky, we're discussing which is the next stage. We have started with her with one of a kind products. Let's try this. Let's try that. But the product that she showed you, it's from the Anor collection. Anor collection, which was prepared for the Las Vegas show in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. So we decided together then that we will do the whole collection in 3 tones, like neutral, the warm and cold, and we have done it. And we decided what will be in the collection. It was a home decor collection, and we chose the pattern. So the work is, after we finalized what we are doing, what kind of the list of the product will be, I am drawing the design and then putting on the, and before that, there are a lot of stuff to do. We need to check what kind of color of fabrics are in the market or in the factories. Do we have enough in the stock, the threads? So all the materials, the raw material we're looking, and then we're deciding whether our idea can meet with the raw material. And then I'm putting on the fabric, doing the patterns on the fabric. We have the special lady who does that, drawing on the fabric, and then I'm putting threads in one of the samples which color should go. And we have with Ricky, we have the same palette of the threads.
I have.
Yes, she can show you.
Because it turns out it's trying to match colors across a computer screen is very useful.
No.
Yes. So we have the same things for each other.
So
And
I have a question. Can I ask a
yes.
question real quick? So
Yeah, sure.
when you're picking colors for your collections and such, do you ever look at like Pantone and what they have set up for the colors and stuff to move forward to see like whether it's for the home area or whether it's for your fashion area?
Yes. Ricky also invested on the Pantone, and we have Pantone.
Okay.
Yes, and every year we are looking for the trend color.
Yes.
Yes,
This color.
doing a small marketing research.
And
Sure.
it can be very challenging. For example, just Munira talked about raw materials.
Yeah.
Well, like this is this lovely, nice beige color that we really liked, and we created all the samples originally. And then when we were ready to, we decided, because I was preparing for a wholesale market, a trade show, I needed to be able to guarantee that I could actually reproduce these products for orders.
Sure.
And we decided that the ikats were a problem because they're woven in Uzbekistan.
Yeah.
And they're hand woven. They're unless you're shopping directly in Margilan, Uzbekistan, you can't count on getting the same pattern.
Right.
So we decided, well, we can't have our collection in Las Vegas have ikats because we can't promise that we can get this same blue and cream color. So let's just use all embroidery for this collection. And Munira went back to the factory, and they're not doing beige anymore.
They don't have in stock. Or if you want to do a special order, you need to buy the minimum 800 meters. Yeah, actually it is 1200 meters, but the minimum is 800. So it's
Right.
too much for one small company. You should share, you should find other companies who would share this color with you. So it's a bit complicated.
So
Sure.
it gets very complicated. So our second collection of samples was all on gray because that was the neutral that was available when we were doing the samples. So we have gray instead of this nice beige.
Yeah.
Well, but gray right now is like, it's the new beige.
It's a new beige. Yeah.
And then the threads are Russian.
Yes, they're coming from Russia.
That's the best supply that Munira has found for good quality cotton threads that are color fast.
There are some Turkish threads for embroidery available in the markets, but me, as I do embroidery myself, and when you are embroidering yourself, you know the quality
Right.
of the threads of raw material, and when you stitch, you hear the voice or noise.
Yeah.
So how soft it is, and after how it will react after washing. So I prefer the Russians, not the Turkish one, no Chinese one at all. Yeah. So even we have cotton companies, cotton farms, and we have the companies which are producing the textile, but there is no any company which are producing the threads. Because they are saying that's not enough markets in country for embroidery threads yet.
And even with that, we have lots of colors, but for example, there's white. There is no.
And then off-white.
There's no ivory. There's no ivory. And we've wanted to do something with ivory on black, but it's not available. So no can do.
Yeah.
And we'd love to do some stuff with linen, but linen is not available.
No.
One of the things I have planned for the future when we get a little farther down the road and have more reliable orders is to see if I can work with one of the Fair Trade Federation members that works in India that produces cloth. in India that meets American standards for quality and color fastness, and see if we can get a direct import from India to Munira in Tajikistan. But the import-export layer of additional complication is something we haven't taken on yet until we have bigger orders and more reliable flow of products. But going back to, you get the pattern drawn on the fabric. I got to watch this being done by hand. When we were there, we were staying at a homestay in the Seven Lakes region, and the electricity was out because that's customary.
That period was like that.
And
4 hours in a day.
Munira always travels with battery operated lamps, and she had Jamshed tracing the patterns by a fairly dim light, and we were just chatting. It was a very memorable evening watching Jamshed trace embroidery patterns on fabric.
After the tracing the patterns, I'm putting on the sample, I'm putting the threads in each part where the exact color should be embroidered with, and then send to the ladies to Panjikant.
And how do you send it to the ladies?
Where I'm sending through taxi drivers. Taxi drivers. There is no post office. The taxi drivers, and there is no any contract. As Ricky said, you are just trusting them and giving your package and putting all the instructions and sending to them.
So do you
goes to
trace
Tajikistan.
Sorry?
So do you trace the pattern on each piece of fabric, or do you give one sample to the lady that's going to stitch it and she knows how to reproduce it?
No, we are putting tracing on every fabrics, on each fabric.
Oh, wow.
Each piece, yes, in each piece. It's all handwork.
And then you do a sample, and you did the whole embroidery for the sample, and then that's what you should send to them? No. I'm doing design, printing out, and giving to the lady who do the tracing. She's giving me back. I'm putting just the couple stitches in the place. Oh, okay. Just
with the color, just a couple stitches, not the whole, not the whole piece.
And and demonstrating which stitch.
Which stitch? Yes, which stitch. If I'm using in some part, because me personally, I prefer to do combination of the stitches. In my view, it shows how master you are in your work. So that's why I'm using different stitches. If it's Bosma stitch, then I do Bosma stitch. If they should be the steam stitch, I'm doing steam stitch. If they should be the chain stitch used in the pattern, then I'm putting a couple of chain stitch with this color, which it should be have done with. So this way, not embroidering the whole piece.
I see. And do you give them then the materials, like the embroidery cloth? Okay.
Yes, for sure, everything. Where I'm putting the traced fabric and putting all the threads.
Like a little kit.
Yes. Without the needle.
The needle, yeah.
Actually, when Ricky was coming and she said, "What I can bring for the ladies?" I said, "Needles, please." Yes, and still I do have, and they're keeping that needles because they're really different.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
What kind of needles did you bring?
I just brought, I went down to Joann's and bought a variety of embroidery size needles.
As we are using knitting threads for embroidery, it's the name is Iris, the Russian threads. The needles number from 3 to 9 are good for them.
Oh, okay.
And then once you put them in a taxi and they get delivered in Panjikent, and then how
we are taking the taxi driver's number and giving our number as well, the phone, the mobile number, and then giving the mobile number to our person mobilizer, Khayri. Actually, she called me this morning and giving her the information that the package is sent and this is the number, and after probably 5 to 7 hours they're calling, we are checking whether the package arrived or not. So and they're informing.
Where does the package go then?
Where? To Panjikent.
Right, but like just you throw it out the window?
No, for sure. They're calling each other, meeting and taking the package, and we are paying from our side the service price. So,
and then when it gets picked up in Panjikent, how does it get to all the ladies in the mountain villages?
The same story like from Fujian to Panjikent. The Khayri is taking the package, and there are a couple ladies in Panjikent itself, and some in Sarazm, some in other villages, calling each other, or those who are close, they're coming to Panjikent and taking their part, or other for those who are far away, sending further with the taxi drivers. And once they have done, so I'm giving the timing, the deadline for the finishing of their projects. So the same back route, she is collecting all the stuff and sending the same way where taxi drivers to me. And then we have the ladies who are doing finishing, with whom we also have done a lot of the trainings, or mostly master classes, practical courses on how to do the finishing. And this was Ricky's idea, to ask the ladies to put their signatures.
Yes, of course.
Yes, I have asked, I have done for several of them how to sign, because it's difficult. Some of them they can't do. That part I'm doing at home. When my daughter was with me, now she's in Germany, she was helping me to doing the signatures for those who couldn't do that. And afterwards it goes to the lady, to the tailor, who would do the finishing.
Do all the ladies out in these villages have telephones that you can keep in touch with them?
Yes, they do, but we have the mobilizer in between, whom are, because instead of telling everyone, for example, the same thing with 10 people, I'm talking to Khayri, the lady in Panjikent, and she is doing the rest of the instruction with her team. And the same in Madam with the carpet weavers. We have a Munira in Madam. So I'm explaining her, and she's passing to the team. So I'm delegating. Otherwise, it's too much work for one person.
I do remember when I met the village ladies, the embroidery ladies in Panjikent. Munira was doing a class in addition to me talking to the ladies with Munira translating. And the very first thing she had to do was tell everybody to turn off their cell phones. Because there were cell phones ringing and everybody was picking up their cell phones.
It's the same thing all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And the additional issue is the dialect we are speaking. I'm speaking differently, and they are speaking differently in the villages.
Oh.
Yes, and some of them they're saying that I'm speaking too fast. So I'm lucky that we have the mobilizers in the places who are somehow understand me and they can pass forward, because there are some different words that we are understanding differently.
You might talk a little bit, Munira, about the role of Russian and Tajik, the languages, the use of both languages and English now in Tajikistan. I was a language major. I'm always interested in languages.
Tajik is a mother tongue, but there are different dialects. In Khojan we speak a bit different, in south different, even in the north, in the village, in the regions, like in there are 14 regions, yes, regions in South Oblast. So most of them they're speaking differently. Not all, almost all, but those who are the neighbors, they can understand each other. For example, in Ash, they have different dialects. In Zirafshan, they do have, in Aini, be different, in Panjikent, in the mountains, different. Our generation, who was born before independence, I would say, Russian is almost the same as Tajik for me. Like, we used to speak Russian. We had a lot of the neighbors, Russian speakers, Russians. So for me, I don't feel like Russian is a foreign language. But for new generation, Russian is really foreign language. Yes, new generation, they rather speak better English than Russian for now.
Interesting.
So, and also, as we are neighbors with Uzbekistan, there are some communities or regions where they speak Uzbek. So we have a lot of Uzbek-speaking people as well in the region.
When Jim and I were there,
is it a related language, Uzbek and Tajikistan?
No.
Not at
Uzbek
all?
and no, not at all. Uzbek and Tajik are in different family of languages. Tajik is in Indo-Iranian family of languages, but Uzbek is in Turkish family of languages. So totally different. But we can get each other in some way because in both lexicon there are some percentage of the Arabic words. So if, for example, any Uzbek will use that Arabic word, I can catch it.
The Tajik language is about 90% overlap with Farsi.
It's a Persian, yes.
Farsi.
But it's written with a modified Cyrillic alphabet. So Iranians and Tajiks can communicate orally, but they can't read each other's writing. And one of the things that I remember being fascinated about was I would always ask when I was there, oh, how do you say X in Tajik? And then there would be an extended discussion in Russian about how you would say that in Tajik. And it quickly became apparent that there were lots of concepts that people only used Russian for. And there were other concepts that were where Tajik was the language where you discussed it.
The language barrier is very interesting. When I was in Panjikent, when we were in Seven Lakes and we were doing our classes, once I asked the lady to sew on the machine, and I said, "Çok does it." It's sewing, or she understood "çok kuned." It's cutting. And she did cutting instead of sewing. Or when and the influence of Russian language also is very interesting. When during the same class, when I was asking for the iron, and I said "Darzmol kunet," she was wondering and was not getting me what she should do. And she said, when I explained her, and she said, "Oh, utug goyet." Utug is iron in Russian. So they always you have something interesting during your classes or meeting the ladies. It's interesting.
So, what languages do kids typically study in school in Tajikistan, and at what age do they start learning more than one language?
We have two types of the classes, Russian class, mostly Tajik classes, and also Russian classes. It means, and we do have a private schools and public schools, mostly public school. And if your kid is going to the Tajik class, then they will start studying Russian language in the first class,
First grade?
And first grade, yes, and English from the second grade. It's because of the governmental program. And if your kid going to the Russian class, then they will start studying Tajik as a governmental language in the first grade, and English in the second. For example, in the private schools, they have additional languages. For example, my kids used to go to the German-Russian school. From the first grade, they used to study Russian and German. From the second grade, they added English and Tajik. So they used to learn 4 languages.
Wow.
And one of the former ambassadors, U.S. ambassadors to Tajikistan, told a UNM professor who spent a summer teaching English teachers, told her that her biggest diplomatic tool in Tajikistan was English language learning programs. So is English now the language that young people consider the fastest route to the best job?
Those whose aim is going abroad, not like just a labor migrant to Russia, then they prefer learning English. English, German, Chinese, these are most the languages which are kids are taking if they are want to do better job.
Speaking
Does
of the
that vary depending on what part of the country the child lives in? Because part of your country borders on China and other areas.
No, actually, it doesn't depend because of I would say there is no connection between the borders. It doesn't mean that if you are living in Pamir, then you want to learn Chinese. No. Even we have classes in Hujand, and there is a faculty of Oriental languages. They do have the specialty on Chinese language. And now also in the faculty of foreign languages, they do have some French classes, French groups, so German language as well. So it doesn't matter about there is no relation because of the border, I would say. Because the only border is China. The rest in Kyrgyzstan, you can speak Russian. In Uzbekistan, same Russian. Kazakhstan, or whatever the former Soviet Union countries, you can speak easily Russian.
Speaking of the migrants, for those of you who don't know, many men, particularly men, mostly men, young men from the rural areas, traditionally have gone, since independence, have gone to Russia as migrant labor because there are no jobs in the rural areas, and sent money home. But I've been seeing a lot on Facebook about migrants being sent home from Russia or being trapped at airports and not being allowed to get on airplanes. What's the situation with migrants right now?
Actually, I would say the cases sending them back home or not allowing them coming into country, it's their personal problem. Maybe they had some cases or faults, they haven't have enough the obligatory documents during their stay. So they are their faults actually. They're not just sending back without any faults actually.
So the people who want to stay and
they're allowed to stay. For those who are the minimum, they can stay for 3 months. Afterwards, they do need some documentation for staying, like the official place to stay. So a lot of the instructions which they should follow. And once they follow, they can stay.
And during
because there are a lot. Because besides, I would say besides the simple migrants who are working in the building and construction, cleaning services, or shops. There are lots of the families of good professionals as well who moved to Russia, who are living with their families, who have done a great job there, like working in Yandex or IT sector or medicine sector, education as well, and those who have really good businesses too. Who could build their life there.
I saw a number of articles on Facebook that for migrants who would typically go for the summer season to Russia, that because of the pandemic, that those people are not being allowed to travel. Is that accurate?
I haven't read that news. I can't say something from my side because I haven't seen that article. But I read the news that during the pandemic, they have stopped the paying of patent for the migrants for now. So some making their life a bit easier.
One of the things I promised that I would make available to everybody tonight, and I don't want to forget to do it, is remember I said Munira's working on a new order, new designs, and what we're going to do, we're not sure when the airport will open, but when the order comes, anybody who's on this call and wants to order custom colors within our limited color range for fabric, but if you wanted, for example, a particular color of embroidery and a particular size.
And also we can add pattern. If they don't like the pattern, we can change.
We can do a custom order for you as part of that initial order. We don't know exactly what the retail price is going to be yet because they haven't been fully produced yet, and that depends on what the raw materials cost and how long it takes the ladies to do the work because these are brand new. But if you wanted to order a custom item, and I'll show you a picture of the three basic products in a second, you could get the 20% off whatever the final retail price is.
But first of all, Ricky, we could have their feedbacks, actually.
Yeah, an
Yes, and
excellent
also,
idea.
yes, you can critique it. You can tell whatever you think about the product.
Let me just open this up and share my screen. I have to get over here. And I want to show this. Okay, this is one of them.
Oh, yeah, nice.
This is
very, very simple.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is designed to be, you know, my order is basically everything's on black, but we can vary the embroidery color or the design. And this one, I can't remember, Munira, do you remember whether it comes in 3 sizes or 4?
In 3 sizes.
Okay, in 3 sizes. They're all sized very loosely. I even have a little picture, one that's made up in a different fabric. Let me stop the sharing here. This was made up, and I'm not positive what. I worked with a US fashion designer and pattern maker to create these very loose-fitting patterns that are designed for American bodies. Asian bodies, it turns out, are not sized like American bodies. And I shipped the sizes to Tajikistan using Anvar, the shipper, came in a big giant box.
Big giant box.
Because I learned, not being a fashion designer myself, I didn't know, but I learned that the old-fashioned designers, when they did the patterns, they do them on cardstock, not on that tissue paper that we used to buy from Simplicity.
And
it was very heavy.
Tag.
It's called what?
Oak tag.
Oak tag.
Oak tag.
But they're heavy.
And heavy.
And they're going to last.
And it costs.
So, you know, and it comes in 3 sizes. So that's one of them.
And what material is it?
Well, this material is not one that we're going to use.
Oh, I see. Okay.
We're going to.
It will be synthetic, kind of synthetic wool, the light one.
Yeah, it's.
This is another issue actually, because there is no any fabric content in the fabrics. In the fabric store, they don't know. When I was in the market, I was looking whether they have any paper info. They don't. Only they have the article number. They have the number of the color, and that's it. No content.
Oh.
So if it's
yes.
Do you have instructions on how to determine what the fiber content is? Because they're burn tests and smell.
The burn test, yes, smell test, yes, I know about that. Yeah, that's why, and also you can feel that it's synthetic wool, but there is very limited wool, I would say, by the just testing by hand. So, and when we're choosing the fabric from my side, because I'm personally like a practical person, I would rather go for the expensive fabric, which will last longer and more natural. That's why, for example, even the embroidery threads, which are coming from Russia, comparatively expensive, I'm using them because they are long lasting and they are color fast. And if you will touch it, if you will sleep on it, it is all fine.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one design. And now let me pull up the second one just so this, and now let me share this one. Let's see. I want this one. and share that one.
Mhm.
Ooh,
Mhm.
that's pretty.
This one's my favorite. And the sample that I have here is not a great sample because it was done on a double knit, which we won't use, but you can get sort of a sense of it.
Mhm.
It's I forget a swing jacket.
It's a swing. It's a kind of a swing, bit yes, wider in the.
And then the final. Okay. And then I'm going to pull up the.
Where are the fabrics loomed? Do you know?
Sorry?
Where are the fabrics loomed?
In China.
Okay.
In China. We don't have. We do have some fabrics from Turkey. For example, this fabric for the tunics, it's synthetic linen. We don't have the real linen here.
Okay.
So they're coming. This one is coming from Turkey.
Gotcha.
This one. Those for the one which we choose for the cardigans, they're coming from China.
Okay.
Yeah, I sent Munira out to the markets and the factories to find the best, most suitable fabric she could find.
We do have we do have several companies, textile companies, which are producing the fabrics. The most cotton, but they are not fitting for these designs. So we have chosen those which are available in the market for now.
Gotcha.
And it was before the pandemic starts.
So,
Yeah, that's probably going to be painful for a while.
Yes,
Yeah.
it will. Yes, yes, it is.
But you bought enough.
Yes,
supply.
yeah, yes. For the first order, I have stock, so we will do the first order in any case.
And so the tunic, it's the same tunic with different designs, and we can do we haven't actually picked the embroidery colors or finalized which design we're going to use on the tunics.
Yes.
So this one in particular, we'd love to have input in terms of what appeals to you, which ones you like best, any feedback generally.
The tunic on the bottom, I guess it's number 4.
Uh-huh.
Be careful with that little flower that sticks out by itself because it could be a bullseye.
We were also expecting that people would prefer that one because it's more like bright or a bit typical.
It's just placement.
and you never know people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're nice. I like them.
Thank you.
Well, I buy a lot of stuff from Ricky.
Oh yeah.
Just Andrea, you are just supporting, or you really use them and you like them?
I love them. The silk jackets. I got
kimono jackets like
yeah,
this.
The kimono jackets.
Yeah. I have 3 of them, I think.
Wow. Are you wearing them all yourself?
Yes. Well,
wow.
actually, I bought 4. I sent one to my sister as a gift, but I have 3 of them, and I wear one all the time, and it's getting a little worn. And then I have one that it's my dressier one, and then I just got one, a longer one. It's black, I guess, but it's so pretty. I just love them, and they're so wonderful because they're warm but light. But then you can wear them when it's warmer out and it's not hot. It's just amazing. I love them.
She bought chapon, Ricky?
No.
She has chapon?
All
no?
kimonos. All kimonos. Some lined, some unlined. And we do have coming in that same order.
Yes. With the 10 pieces or something like that.
Some
with
unlined kimonos with the cotton adras. The cotton. Most of the adras that we use is the adras is combination silk and cotton, woven 50% cotton, 50% silk.
This is silk one. The one you have is silk.
This one is all silk?
Yes, this is all silk.
Okay.
I like that one.
No, you this is mine.
This is mine.
This one.
This is her favorite colors.
Yes. But we do have, occasionally Munira can get some good quality 100% cotton. And those are really nice for summer to do those as an unlined jacket. And the blue fabric we have is really nice. It goes really well with jeans and you can use it in a more formal setting. So I'm not asking, you don't need to commit. There's no rush or anything. Just know that if you think you might like a custom, one of those new products in a custom size and color, just email me in the next couple of weeks so that Munira knows what size to cut. And we'll deal with it. And whatever the retail price turns out to be, you'll get 20% off. So we've now exhausted my official list of topics. Are there any other questions that
Enrique
has?
If you are not mind, I want to give some time for Lynn because she was here.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Munira was the one that told me about, she was very kind and set me and a friend that I had made while I was on the trip. We were in Panjikant, and there was another gentleman, Zafar. I forgot his last name with the Salom hostel there. And he helped us. He set us up with a trip into Haftkul. And then I told him I would like to go visit Khujand, and that was how I was going to get back into Uzbekistan via Osh. And that portion of the trip afterwards was a hot mess, but that's a different story for another time. I tried to do everything on my own. Like 10% Russian comprehension. It was fun. But really, and that's how I went to the little shop there on Rudaki Avenue, and then that's how I learned about Munira and her work with the women artisans. So I was really excited and curious to know, what that was all about. But when we arrived in Khujand, very beautiful city, very charming, fell in love with it right away. She set us up with the guide. Was it Shahzod? The young student?
Yes.
Yeah, and he took us to the market.
Working.
Yeah, to say hello to him for me.
Yes, I will.
And we had a cooking lesson. We learned how to make samsa, and then Munira very kindly let me and my companion Amalia look at
Amalia. Yes, we were in contact with her a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yes, I was checking how was the life during the pandemic. Are they alive? So she was passing hello too, yeah.
And then we had a visit to the Sogd, the museum there, the fortress. And I hope the video is not circulating because somebody came and did a very awkward interview with us. One point, but I highly recommend a trip to Khujand. And if you're lucky and you see when you're in the office, she might show you her beautiful Suzani collection. It was a real treat to get to see that work. There are really nice examples in the museum as well. what I thought was interesting, I don't know if the women are still doing that, but if you go to the museum in Panjikant, when you're in the lobby, there's a counter and they have souvenirs and some pamphlets, and a few of the things are in English. But at one point I had asked if they had any textile goods, and she just started pulling out the Zarafshan style, like all Suzanis, and
old Suzanis, yeah.
Yes, but some of them, I felt a little guilty, so I bought a smaller one, and I wouldn't say it was like a great. It appealed to me, but she had some very large pieces, and I felt like she was just asking way too little for them. So I know at some point, now that the traffic was increasing from Samarkand, and there are a few, they do really on Instagram. There's one dealer who's in Istanbul, and I think he found out about it, and what happens then is that they will send people, or they take these trips and they'll buy up the Suzanis, and then it breaks my heart because then they go and cut them into pieces and turn them into pillows. And
this is bags and clutches, everything. They're just cutting the old pieces, which is I hate too.
And they're not damaged, so I've had friends who have bought things in Istanbul and they think that they're Turkish. And I told them, no, I said, they've said, you don't understand. And I said, it makes me crazy because you don't understand all the work, it's the work of many hands over several months, and they should have been handed down. And instead they're turned into tote bags and they're out of context. Because I always, especially with this one dealer in Istanbul, when he posts those particular Suzanis, he's always calling them Samarkand. So it was a surprise for me when I was in Haftkul and they stayed at the Juma Boy,
yes,
that hostel. Inside the rooms, that's how they covered up the alcoves.
Yes, he has an old piece of the Suzani there.
Yeah, and then I learned from you that's the Zarafshan school.
School, yes.
Yeah. Yes. So now I tell people you should know.
Here's an interesting thing. So my husband and I went to Ireland in October, and I wore one of my jackets, and this woman in this little tiny town in Ireland knew it was ICOT. And I go, what? She was like, oh, I said, how do you know? She's from Tajikistan. How did she know? I mean, it was like amazing. And I didn't know why she knew, but
the world is very small.
Yeah, it was like, it was a little tiny town, like 600 people in the town, but she had been in Dublin in some sort of job that was more of a high level job. So I assume she wouldn't have heard about it in this little town. So, but that was really a surprise to me. I go, whoa.
You were not first person who knows and have it.
Yeah, it was just like Munira. People don't know that in America. They don't. In the United States, they don't know that. I wear it all the time. Oh, that's really neat, but I have to explain to them what it is. So anyway.
So that's why we have you who are spreading the word about this stuff and about this country. So how otherwise other people can know?
Yeah.
Munira.
Yes.
I've always thought of ikat as a Japanese design, Japanese textile design. Is it generally a Central Asian tradition, or how did ikat get to Tajikistan?
Actually, if we would look at the etymology of the word ikat, if I'm not mistaken, it's a Malaysian or Indonesian word. It means tie-dye. It's the same technique, but the Central Asian ikat is different because of the type of the style of the patterns. If you will look, for example, because ikat is available, they do in Indonesia, they do in Malaysia, they do in India worldwide, they do in Japan. But the technique in Guatemala, okay, and it's the same technique, like we are tying and then dyeing, and but I would say they're different just because of the patterns. The Central Asian patterns, they are more, the patterns are bigger, and the composition, they do have different composition. In Orissa, where do they also do ikat in India? The patterns are very small. In Malaysia and Indonesia, also very small geometric patterns.
They also do ikat in Mexico in the production of the rebosos.
I didn't know about that.
I just wanted to also throw in, for those of you who may not know, we are planning a textile tour of Central Asia. It is tentatively planned.
Hopefully, yeah. If there will no pandemic for next year.
But it may get pushed back because the scientists are just being slower than we would like. In figuring out how to get us out of our houses. But Munira is going to be the guide for the entire tour.
Hopefully.
We're going, and the plan is to visit Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan, and do master classes with each of the major textile groups that HoonArts works with. So if you're on our mailing list, you'll get updates. We had our itinerary almost finalized. Yeah. And I need to follow up with my travel partner, because last I heard she was in Bhutan, had managed to get out of India into Bhutan before the border closed, and I've actually been afraid.
And she's stuck there.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
But the travel partner has led textile tours around the world for 25 years. That's been her professional career. But I know the artisans, and we're setting up master classes. Like Munira talked about the carpet weavers. That's going to be the
part of the tour, hopefully.
Master class in the Tajikistan section of the tour. So
not just the watching, but doing master classes.
So that's coming. Maybe it'll still happen in 2021, and maybe it'll get pushed off, but it's not going to fall off the radar entirely. So, any other questions that anybody would like to ask Munira? Pamela?
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you. It was wonderful. I really have enjoyed it.
And because we were like not in the official, and can you shortly tell what you are doing back home? Knitting, weaving?
Making face mask.
From bandanas?
I'm making face masks, but most what I do when we're not in a pandemic is I sew clothes, and I do a lot of needlepoint.
Needlepoint.
And I just have a job, and I have my own company, and so that's a lot of work. But when we were in Ireland, in this little town that I told you about, they had a little lace making group, and lace, and so I was invited to sit in with them, and so I learned how to do that, and I go, oh, I really like that. It was really fun. It was more like macrame, but on a tiny scale.
Yeah, it will be very, very tiny.
Very small scale. And
I'm a lace maker also.
You are a lace maker? Okay.
Well, it's really
I can't
interesting.
imagine how you do it.
Well, this
Very
isn't
delicate work.
Yeah, this wasn't the kind that uses the little bobbins. It was more like macrame. And they use the base of this little really narrow lace tape, they call it, that they get from Italy. So anyway, that's the kind of fun stuff I'm wanting to do if I ever have a chance to do it.
Yeah.
And how about you, Pamela? Are you a textile artist?
I am. I do needlepoint. I do smocking. I sew. I make quilts. I do some designing for clothes and such. And I just have a good time playing with fabrics. I like fabric content, and one of my favorite fabrics is the Moorish cotton. That's 65 cotton and 35 viscose or rayon. I just love that blend of fabrics and stuff. Hard to find. You can't ever really find it, but sometimes I find bigger dresses and then I cut them up. And do what I want with them.
Oh, what are you doing out of them?
Well, you know, like pants or shirts and things like that. Or
you're giving second life.
It smocks really well to do little things. I have a darling little granddaughter who is 10 months.
Oh.
So
she's lucky.
Yeah.
And to have you.
I have coonhounds and bloodhounds. And so I play a lot with them. So they're passed out on my couch right now.
Yeah, I have border collies. We do sheep herding. That's why I was like, oh, the sheep. I like sheep. So it's like, you know, I don't have any of my own, but I would like to have some.
Once we had a group from US, the couple actually, and they have llamas back home. And, yes, and they're not using their wools and they're just throwing away. I said, why not to sheep us?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's people here that would love to have that.
There's a lot of weavers in this area.
Yeah, there are. Wow.
I even have a loom.
Do you?
I do.
You're like, Pamela.
You have a loom.
Pamela is sounding like a she when she does everything.
Fine arts major. So.
Well, I'm going to have to get to sleep. I worked really, really hard in my garden today, so I'm barely staying awake. So.
Okay. Thank you for your time, Andrea. It was very nice to see you.
It was great to meet you.
It was wonderful talking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, this was wonderful.
This was marvelous.
Joining us. It was so much fun.
It was indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.